do a review of these three books here. The Hook #5, Corpses in the Cellar, Brad Latham. Vortex, Jon Cleary. And To Renew the Ages, Robert Coulson. And go. Alright, first up is this 1976 Laser book number 26, Robert Coulson, To Renew the Ages. It has wonderful cover art by Kelly Freas. He did all the cover art for the Laser series. If you don't know, the Laser series was put out by Harlequin, the romance company. It was started in 1975 and went until 1977 and had 58 entries in the series. They were all edited by Roger Elwood, which was the creator of the Laser series. And it was basically a monthly subscription that you could sign up for. Sort of like a magazine or a comic book, but it was a paperback, sci-fi series. The books are notorious for being heavily edited and trimmed down. They wanted them a certain word length, and so when the authors would turn them in, the Roger Elwood would just chop it up and take out all the sex scenes, all the swearing, and it would piss the authors off. And so they would go and republish the books with other publishers in their intended length and verbiage. So right away, the cover art there is very eye-grabbing. All of them have the big heads, and then the sci-fi background, beautifully painted by Kelly Freas, who's done a lot of paperback covers around that era. So the basic premise here is we got a post-apocalyptic nuclear fallout United States. There's little civilizations. They don't really talk to each other. And then there's like wild lands called the Badlands in between. There is the main character is Bill, who has been horribly disfigured by a bear. Backstory. He had a fiance, friends, and a life, and I don't know, after this bear attack, they just couldn't stand to look at him anymore, so his life was over. So he decides to become a scout, which is to go explore the outside of their little civilization in Wyoming. There's been word of an invisible telekinetic monster, so he's going out to research this. He comes to he's staying with some barbarian tribe, some I think I picture like more Mad Max than like traditional tribe when I say that, just so you know. I'm not like talking about indigenous tribes anywhere. So he's staying with this tribe, and there's a hovercraft that comes in the air and starts shooting at the tribe, and he doesn't really care about the tribe, but he doesn't like people shooting at him, so he shoots it down. Inside is a beautiful woman, of course. The barbarian people are like, hell yeah, like, we're gonna have our fun. And Bill gets her away from there and basically is like, we gotta get out of here. These people are bad dudes. Let's get out of here. Me and you, baby. She thinks that she is the prisoner. So there's like this animosity, but he doesn't consider her a prisoner. I think he just wants company. So he's like, I'm just going to take you back to your land of Los Alamos, New Mexico, through the Badlands. And, adventure ensues. But more so than adventure, romance ensues. I found this book to be very much a romantic adventure story. It's the trope of two people that have to come together that don't like each other, that eventually it breaks down and they fall in love. Spoiler alert. So along the way, they have all these obstacles and random encounters that they have to surpass, and like one of them is a tiger, a wild tiger in the Southwest desert, which I thought was really funny at first until they explained that it's the zoos. They just released the zoos, so I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And actually, everything in this book kind of makes sense, which you don't have to with this kind of book. You don't have to make sense, but it does. Everything's pretty on par, except for the telekinesis monster, which is, I don't know. I found that to be like the least enjoyable part of the book, and it's not a big part of it. So what really matters is, yeah, this relationship between these two people, and it's actually very sweet. And I usually don't like romance in stories, in movies and books, whatever. It always just seems to be shoved in there to give it a more human aspect or something. I don't know. I don't feel like I need more human aspect. I want less human aspect in my literature. But it was very sweet, and I thought that's what made the book more enjoyable, more so than the action. Though I couldn't have done it without the action if it was just a romance book. But the action and the relationship, it was great, and it was, I don't know, it was a feel good book. There's some odd choices, like the barbarian woman, the fighter. She's not a barbarian. The fighter woman. She comes from a matriarchal society, and so she kind of has this, like, women are superior, men are the reason that the world blew up. And it comes across as the author was hating on feminism, I think. That's the way I took it. Like if there was a female-led society, that men would be slaves, and it was silly. And I don't know if the author intended it, but it reminded me of like a schlocky B movie, which made it like more appealing. So even though it was stupid, it did make it better. That it had that aspect to it. And the Bill character is always like trying to show her the way that the matriarchal society is bad. You know, take that as you will. So I wasn't expecting much from this one, as Laser gets a bad rep. But it was actually very enjoyable, and sort of like a romantic comedy, like Romancing the Stone or something. The post-apocalypse stuff was great. The fights, the random encounters aren't just they do battle with something. It's like you could solve riddles and not so much mystery, but it had layers to it that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, thumbs up on this one. Hope the rest of them are as enjoyable as this one, but next up is this 1982 Corpses in the Cellar, The Hook, number 5 by Brad Latham. Cover art by George Wilson. The Hook was a series from Warner Books consisting of 5 entries from 1981 to 1982. This being the last in the series. The title character is the Hook, which is Bill Lockwood. Also another Bill. He is an insurance investigator. Very exciting stuff. And this takes place in the 1930s. So he is an investigator in the 1930s who is a former boxer, which is why he's called the Hook, because he has a wicked left hook, Smoking Joe Frazier style. This is the first of the series that I've ever read. I haven't read the first 4, so I have no means to compare how this one holds up to the previous 4. So I have no expectations. And the first sentence in the book has Bill Lockwood knocking on a door, and the door opens, and her bare right breast glistening as it reflected the harsh light of the steaming hallway. So a glistening boob. That's how we're going to start this off. And now I have some expectations. A glistening boob. The light reflected off of the boob blinded Bill Lockwood. He got his bearings and went in to solve the case. The case is, the basic premise, there's been a fire at a nightclub. There's bodies in the middle of the floor, which Bill finds weird because they weren't trying to get out the door. He shows up, tells the cops what's really going on. The cops don't know anything. Bill Lockwood is there. He's solving the problems. He suspects that it's not a legit fire, that it is arson, and investigation ensues. The nightclub is owned by a rich guy with a young wife with a glistening boob problem. The rich guy is having financial difficulties. He's supposed to be at the nightclub when the fire happens. He's there every night, but for some reason he's not there. So, suspicion number one, he's doing it for money. There's former employees that have just recently been let go. All suspects. So we got suspect 2, 3, and 4. There's a cop. The cop who discovered it seems kind of questionable, so Bill's going to check him out too. And of course, we got the mob. You got to have the mob in there. It's a crime story. The syndicate, the mob, the mafia, whatever you want to call them in these books. They seem to be attached somehow. And what you get is Bill investigating. Pretty straightforward private investigation, only with the insurance angle, which makes it a little stiffer. Not as fun. But only when you think about it. When you think that he's an insurance investigator, that's when it becomes lame. But it doesn't read like he's an insurance investigator. He's walking around, he's good looking, he's getting it in there. This is written really simple, and the dialogue is really simple, and there is a part where he's interviewing the rich guy, and he's kind of asking these humdrum questions, and then he's like, "Who is mad at you?" And then the rich guy's like, "Wow, you don't let up. You really just ask the right questions. Wow, you are a tough cookie." And it just cracked me up because it was just like the most basic question, most basic interview questions you could ask someone that something bad happened to them. Which it was charming. It was charming that it was that simple. It made me laugh. I mean, we got a glistening boob, and it's, we're down here. We're not in the literature area. We're down here crawling around in the mud, and honestly, that's where I like it. So this is pretty sleazy. The first woman he interviews, he's having sex with her in like 5 minutes, and like she doesn't even instigate it. She just looks at him. She's like, you're a good looking guy. Let's get it on, He's like, okay. Hey, no problem. This happens to me all the time, lady. Drinking, chain smoking. There's some fist fights. He's an ex-boxer, so they threw some fist fights in there, but I wouldn't say that they're necessarily boxing style fights. They are street fights. Bill's a Superman, men's adventure type, lead character, bests all enemies, solves all problems, almost has zero difficulties. There is a scene where 3 guys have guns on him, and he's like out in this field, and somehow he bests them and punches them. I mean, he's out in the field. There's not even like anything to throw. He can just like grab a pillow from the couch to distract the guy and pop him. I mean, how does one do that? So it's over the top. It's silly. Very men's adventure. In fact, I think this is closer to me to men's adventure and sleaze than it is to crime, even though he's an investigator. So it's really simple. It's enjoyable. My only gripe with it is the 1930s setting. They didn't really utilize it. They didn't do anything with it. It's just set in the 1930s, and other than like a car or these like little minute things, it could have been the 40s or the 50s or the 60s. It really didn't matter. So why bother setting it in the 30s? And he's in New York City, and this is like prime Depression era. So I feel like they really missed out on that. The things they could have done with that. You know, whenever you think of the Depression era, especially in New York City, it's these like black and white photos where people are like huddled down into the steps. It looks like Soylent Green. And in this, it's like everyone has money, except for like some of the employees, but it's nothing like, I would imagine, Depression era stuff. So I thought they missed the mark on that one. But, you know, like I said, I haven't read the first four. Maybe they explore it in the first four. If they don't, why bother with 30s? I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to give another thumbs up here for The Hook. Good job. Oh, you get one of these too. Next up is this 1977 pseudo-disaster novel here, Vortex by Jon Cleary. Jon Cleary was an Australian author. He wrote Australian stories based in Australia. Of course. The only reason I'm mentioning it is because this does not take place in Australia. It takes place in Friendship, Missouri. Which makes, I need to point out, because there's things in this story that do not make sense. Such as there's a rural town in Missouri and everyone's a Democrat. And you're probably like, well, why is that even mentioned? Why is that a thing? And that's a good question. And I don't have an answer for it. Everyone in this story, they just like shove their political affiliation in just the weirdest ways. Like, Democrat cop is talking to the doctor and he's like, well, doctor, as a Republican, you should blah, blah, blah. And it's so weird. And the only thing I can think of is, you know, he's an Australian author. And he's like, what do Americans really care about? And he's like, oh, I got Republican, Democrat. That's like all that they say all the time. This is Republican. This is Democrat. So I thought that was very, if that's why he put it in there, I thought that it kind of made me chuckle. It was annoying at first because like, oh my God, this sounds like Facebook. Like, this is why I stopped looking at Facebook, because of all this. But upon reflection, and I'm like, is he mocking us? Because then it's awesome. All right. So anyway, basic premise. Is it a tornado? Unfortunately not. I thought it was going to be a disaster story like Twister or something. Wizard of Oz. Some Wizard of Oz stuff going on. And no. There is, I think, 15 pages of tornado, and it's at the back end, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. This book was a real disappointment, and it's more about another love story, I guess, but it's not even like it's happening love story. It's about, okay, hold on, we'll just start at the beginning. There's this old money family in Missouri. They're all adults. The adult daughter comes back because she's dying, and she wants to be with her family. Her mom's the only one alive of the parents. She has a brother, and he's married. And at the very beginning, the wife of the brother is found dead in a house destroyed by a tornado outside of the story, outside of the original story, in the backstory. And upon further examination, they found that she's been shot. So it's part murder mystery. And the tornado, I guess, they're always like, it's about to come, the tornado's coming, everyone get ready. But it just like goes on and on and on. And no tornado ever happens until the very end. And then it's very anticlimactic because you're just waiting and waiting for it. And it's just like, I don't even care anymore. I don't even care. Like, I want the tornado to come and just wipe this story out from existence. So the dying daughter was having an affair with the vice president of the United States, the Republican vice president of the United States. He's into town. They couldn't be together because, I don't know, it would look funny because he was married and whatever. He stays at the house with the mom and the brother, and anytime anyone is around, he just goes on and on about their relationship, and it's so boring. It's so unbelievably boring. Like, it's like stuff like, I remember back in 1958 when I met Rose. It was the autumn. The leaves were falling. The kids back at college were walking about. And stuff like that, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And you're like, man, I just want that tornado. Give me that tornado on the cover. Look at that thing. And no, you don't get it. So, man, this book is a hard pass. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Is it written badly? Even the mystery didn't really even make up for it because it's so on the back burner. Because it's so all about this vice president and his relationship with this dying woman. Like, she's not even talking. It's just this guy just talking to you. Man, please, no, don't read this. Don't fall for it. Look at how exciting that cover is. No. I think that the author was going for literature in this aspect, like a best-selling thriller with way more human aspect than needed to be. Instead of just, getting that base hit. just get the base hit and go for the genre fiction of the disaster, of the tornado. And it would have been wonderful. But as far as like an exciting thriller or even literature, no, he's just total strikeout. Total strikeout here. So, please. Oh, this one's going to get, you know what? Ooh, it hurts. That looks weird from the beginning. There we go. Oh, it's good. Thumbs down, Vortex. No. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And